Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, sadly rough fifth grade, and good morning. You guys come up here and join me, so I'm not so alone up here. And thank you to all the Danbury educational community that are represented here, Danbury nonprofit community that are represented here this morning. There isn't enough good news these days for schools and for school districts and for towns, and so I'm especially pleased to be here today to be able to deliver some good news for the Danbury public school system and for the city of Danbury. You guys know how important it is to learn how to read, right? Yes. Right? All right. Well, but you probably also know that there are a lot of adults out there that don't know how to read, and there are a lot of kids that aren't so fortunate to have great teachers like you have that have trouble reading. And so I'm here today to announce that we have been able to get, through the help of a lot of people in this room, some money from the federal government in Washington to be used here in Danbury to help kids read. And this funding is going to make sure that, especially when kids get to kindergarten and first grade, that they're already starting reading, because if you start early, you can read much better the older that you get. So that's what I'm here to announce, is that we're going to have this funding available for the city of Danbury. This is exciting. It's $260,000 that was appropriated in the 2009 budget for the Danbury Family Literacy Program. This is a program that I'm really going to let our superintendent, Sal Pasquarella, and Dr. Bill Glass, the new deputy superintendent, talk to you about. But it's really founded on a very simple concept. The earlier that we can get literacy resources to children, the better, and the more that we can involve their families in the process of early literacy learning, the stronger that student's prospects for literary success will be. We know that early literacy and family literacy works. It's not just intuition, it's study after study has shown us that. And we know how important literacy is to success as kids go through the school system. According to a 2003 report, 50% of all adults who had below basic literacy levels didn't finish high school. So if you don't know how to read, chances aren't very good that you'll finish high school. And of those same people with below literacy levels, 50% of them were unemployed. That's a pretty amazing statistic, that of the universe of individuals in this country who have below standard literacy levels, half of them are unemployed. So there is an obvious direct correlation to both educational success and to career success. And Danbury has given such great thought to how to involve families and involve communities in beginning to really get at early literacy levels. So I'm here to announce our success in securing this funding. Again, it'll be available for the Danbury school system in the coming years to begin to build this program. We hope to be able to have some early success so we can go back and fight for more money at the federal level in order to continue this program running. But this initial seed grant really will allow the ideas that have been germinating here for the Family Literacy Center to be put into action. I would also say that that education is at the top of the agenda in Washington today. President Obama, in his speech to Congress several weeks ago, talked about the 3 pillars of reform in his administration. The first immediate need is to stabilize our economy, but after that, the President is placing a priority on health care reform, energy reform, and education reform. And the stimulus bill passed by Congress and signed by the President reflects those priorities. In particular, it invests record amounts of funding in education, both with respect to state funding, but also with respect to local funding. The city of Danbury is getting millions of dollars in additional Title I and special education funding to help them close what is an expected budget gap this year. And our office is working very hard, along with the superintendent and his team, to make sure that that additional funding coming to the city of Danbury and coming to the Danbury School District is going to be flexible enough to be able to be used to make sure that potential expected job cuts don't have to become a reality here. And so we're working very hard now on making sure that that education funding is flexible enough to fill the real needs of this school district and others like it around the state. That's an ongoing process, but I'm very excited to be a small part of what I think is going to be a great success here in Danbury, and that's the Danbury Family Literacy Program. So with that, let me first introduce Dr. Pasquarella to talk a little bit about this, and then turn it over to Dr. Glass. Dr. Pasquarella.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you so much, Chris Murphy, for your support for doing this. Let me first start by saying, you all like reading? Yeah. I can't hear you. Yeah. Okay. Everybody doesn't get to say that because they don't have the time to spend at reading, particularly the adults in the community and helping students. The idea that we have here is not too foreign from working through Children's First, their desire to work with families. This idea here is to allow our students to experience with family the parts of literature that they may not be able to do at their home. Part of the problem that we're having here in Danbury is many of our students can read, but they don't have the schema to understand the reading comprehension-wise. They don't know the information deeply. And part of it is the time that adults have with their students, not being able to take them through the literature, spend time reading to them. So this center is supporting families where we would have a center where individuals can come in. There'll be materials there for them to interact with. There'll be access points for family support. There'll be a volunteer. Part of it is our vision that would be there to assist families. It'll be a place where we hope physically located so individuals know that if they have an issue in town that supports teaching and learning and they need to deal with it, this is a place where if we can't solve it, we can direct them. This money, although focusing simply on literacy, will be expanded to really support families as a whole in its entirety. So you will probably, we don't have a location yet. We have worked very much this year with the university. There is a tie with the university, and we're talking to Dr. Smotter in terms of some possibilities for an actual site. Congressman Murphy was able to get this money, which was appropriate just 2 weeks ago, correct? Right. So we did not know it was coming, which is a blessing for us. This is money that's not in our budget. This is not money that will save any jobs for us. This is money that's needed that we couldn't put in our budget to help families. Ultimately, that will help our achievement in schools. So I can't thank you enough for this. And as part of a board for the district, they are looking at how to involve the community. Our Irving Fox, one of our board members, has been spending a lot of time working on his committee and having parents in. We've had a few meetings with parents, and this is something that's needed. So I know it's a high priority, and on behalf of the board, they're pleased on getting this money, and we will use it wisely. And I hope, you're right, that we're able to get some more money. The trick to this, once it starts, is sustainability and to keep it going, and we think it's important enough. And if the results are good enough, I think the Department of Education will fund it for us. So again, thank you very much, and I'll have Associate Superintendent speak here, Dr. Glass, about the program. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure, and again, let me also say thank you to Congressman. This is truly a blessing for Danbury. It's a wonderful gift, and it's always wonderful to have students with us because it keeps us focused on the single most important part of our work. And the second most important part of our work is working with your parents and your guardians. And they say that a child's first teacher is their parent or their guardian, and that's absolutely essential. So the thought behind this Family Literacy Center / Parent Center It's really a one-stop shopping opportunity for parents. We'll be brokering services. So as parents come in, there'll be a book lending library. There'll be a toy lending library. There'll be a listening lending library. There'll be all kinds of opportunities for kids and parents to work together to improve literacy, numeracy, which is basically math, and just the general interaction between children and adults. Parents who have difficulties with literacy because they have employment issues, we can help broker those kinds of relations. Frequently, technology is a big issue with parents and a limited either access to technology or limited technological skills. So the idea of putting a computer lab or multiple labs in a centralized location, giving parents employability skills so that they're able to provide those kinds of activities and opportunities that Dr. Pasquarella talked about that builds background knowledge for children. We call that schema. Some kids have never been to a zoo. When a teacher's talking about the difference between a camel and a dromedary in terms of how many humps each one has, kids don't even know what a camel is because they've never seen something other than something in a book, or what a giraffe is unless they've seen it in a book. And some homes literally do not have reading materials. It might be down to as few as 10 to 15 different publications, including a telephone book. It might be a menu from a restaurant. And other homes are very rich and very abundant with a lot of literacy materials. And kids have books to take to bed. Parents have opportunities to read to them. They have time to sneak under the covers with a flashlight and read when they shouldn't be, and they should be sleeping, but that's good stuff anyway. Your backpacks are filled with books in some cases. We want to make that happen for all children. And the way to do that is to get through the child's first teacher, which is their parent. So again, we're absolutely thrilled with this opportunity. It's a blessing for them, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. This is to Dr. Pasquarella, to Dr. Glass, to Ann Lindenmeyer, to the whole team who helped put together this grant. My ability to make the case in Washington is solely dependent on your ability to put together a really powerful case. And here, with respect to the Family Literacy Center, this was not a very hard sell to my colleagues when I was asking to include funding in the budget. Before we can do, I'm happy to do questions separately or together now. But so let me say one last thing to you guys, which is this. So you guys aren't old enough to vote, right? All right. How old do you have to be to vote? 18. All right. So you got a little ways until you vote. But just because you don't vote, it still doesn't mean that I'm not your congressperson. You have just as much of a right to tell me what you think Congress should be doing and what Washington should be doing as your parents do. Just because you can't vote, I still represent you too. I represent 700,000 people in 41 towns in northwestern Connecticut, and I represent your parents, and I represent you too. So here is what I just want to ask you. As you are maybe watching what's happening in the world, as you're concerned about things that are happening here in your school or in your backyard, you just need to remember that you can always write me a letter. You can always send me an email. And whatever subject you send me a letter or an email on, I will write you back. I'll tell you what I think. I'll tell you if I agree with you. I'll tell you if I disagree with you. But sometimes I think that kids think that, oh, well, because I can't vote, my voice doesn't matter. It really does matter. And I listen to you just as much as I listen to all of the adults out there. My secret is I've always been like one of the youngest people in politics. I'm one of the youngest members of Congress. When I was in the state legislature, I was one of the youngest members of the state legislature. So I've always been the young guy in the room. And so I particularly find it's really important to listen to kids out there. So what I'll do is with your teacher, I'll leave behind some of my business cards that have all my information, my email and my address, and if any time you see something that bugs you and you want to let your congressman know, then just fire me off a letter and I'll send one right back.
Maybe we can give them an assignment in 2 weeks. They can send you an email.
Oh, maybe.
Would you like that assignment?
Yeah. I don't want to. I didn't come here to give you guys more work, so I don't want to give you more homework. But you guys should just know that anything that's on your mind, you can always let me know. And then when you're older and you might want to get involved in government, then you can call me and say, Chris, I want to come intern in your office. I want to come work for you for the summer. So we always like that, too, when you get into high school and college. So are there any questions we can answer now? Great. Well, I'll stick around for a while, but thank you very much, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause. This is a good day.